What are the commonalities among leaders who sustain excellence over an extended period of time?
All right, Ben, it's good to see you again because we have actually met in person, and I'm almost certain you don't remember, but I want to refresh your memory. So, a couple years ago, we were both at the Lake Tahoe Celebrity Golf Tournament, and one of the nights there's Rascal Flatts is on stage and they're doing karaoke. I see you smiling, so you know what's going on. They're doing karaoke where they're kind of playing in the background, and they invite celebrities to come up on stage and sing. And some of these celebrities are really good singers. Some of them are actually musicians. And I remember I was with my brother who was playing in the tournament, and I caddy for him, and I'm hitting him. I'm like, hey, Ben, the Bachelor dude's going up there. I like this guy. I've seen him on TV. He seems like a good dude. And you proceed to get up on stage, and actually, let you take it from there. What did you then do next as you got on stage?
Oh my gosh, dude! You would be surprised how often my one buddy who was there and my parents still bring this up in my life. But luckily,
the Tahoe one, or do you do this all over the place?
No. I'll never do this again. Tahoe and Tahoe alone.
Okay.
Luckily, this wasn't recorded, so it's never gone viral. Although I think even if people didn't like me or know me, it would have. Here's the story to this. I'll tell this quickly. My very first year at the American Century Championship, it's a big deal to me. I love golf. I was so pumped for this tournament. I walk into the players meeting, and one of the Rascal Flatts singers was in there, and he goes, "Oh, Ben, you must be a really good singer." I was like, "No." I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, you're doing karaoke." And I was like, "Well, I signed up for karaoke because my buddy told me if I ever wanted to get invited back to this tournament, just do whatever they ask of you." And so I signed up for it. Like, it was an email, I signed up for it, and then I picked my karaoke song that I do at my normal Saturday night, which was Whitney Houston. I want to dance with somebody. And he goes, "You must be good. You're doing karaoke." I said, "I'm not good. And I'm doing karaoke because it felt like the right thing to do." And he goes, "Ben, do you know what this karaoke is?" I said, "I have no clue, man, what this karaoke is." He goes, "This isn't karaoke. This is the way that Tahoe gets the Justin Timberlakes of the world, the Colt Fords of the world, the Rascal Flatts of the world, all of these professional singers to get up on stage and sing a cover, and it's a lot of fun." I said, "Crap, like, you got to be kidding me." So I left there. I talked to my parents. I was like, "Do I back out? Do I just say I'm not doing this?" And they said, "You can't back out. That's not a good look for you. You'll never get invited back then." I was like, "All right, I'm going to do it." Well, long story short, I got up on stage that night reluctantly. Rascal Flatts was playing, and I sang "I Want to Dance with Somebody." And I am terrible, like awful. I don't know all the words. They don't have the words up there, which I didn't know they didn't do either. That's karaoke. You read the words, you sing along. They didn't have the words up there. I don't know the words. I can't hit the notes. It's awkward. And yet there's probably 1,500 people out in the audience, all of which are massive celebrities, people I've idolized and looked up to my whole life, that are watching me laughing. Here's the best part. I get off the stage, and I want to say it was Tony Romo was standing there right off the stage, and he puts his hand on my back and he goes, "You've got balls, kid." And I was like, I don't think this went well. I don't think this went well. And if that's my only memory, and I didn't get invited back. So what are you going to do?
I remember, so the next day, you probably had a lot of this going on. I saw you in the tent. We're in the tent eating, getting ready to go on the course for the day. And by the way, I've been so lucky. I got to go for the last 10 years. So it's the coolest tournament in the world. We love it. It's the same mentality. If they ask, yes, the answer is yes. We'll do whatever it takes, show up, shake hands, whatever you got to do. Not necessarily sing, but I give you huge credit. Anyway, I remember I see you in the tent, and my brother's name is AJ. I was like, "Hey, I gotta go talk to the dude. I really want to talk to him. Like, I have so much respect for that guy." And so I remember I went up to you. I was like, "Dude, huge props. You're not a good singer." And
No.
you just went up there and absolutely gave it everything you had. And I just have massive respect because I don't think I have the guts to do that. And many others don't. And yet, in front of all these celebrities, you get up there and sang your heart out for the whole song. And yes, you have a singing voice like most of us, which is not that good.
Which is not that good. Well, I do think I remember you doing that because I remember the next day I was very, very insecure, very nervous, and having anybody come up to me and just say something about it was reassuring. Because the worst thing is if you walk past a group of people and nobody says anything, but they giggle,
Yeah.
that's when you feel like really low.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for being a nice guy.
I'm curious, how was it around those celebrities? Because for the people who watch The Bachelor, you are like the guy. I mean, literally the guy. You're the biggest celebrity in the world at the time. But the people who don't watch it, they're like, who's that guy? He's a tall guy, looks athletic, right? So how was it in that environment? Like, is it weird, or how do you feel amongst like the Tony Romos and the athletes and some actors, and you're the guy who comes off the Bachelor into this celebrity world?
Well, let me tell you a story
Okay.
that kind of highlights, and it's actually kind of a great representation of the book I just wrote, honestly. So it's the players meeting, and players meeting is where all the players and their caddies come into this room and they sit down, and you sit down next to people that are the biggest celebrities in the world. And it's the day before the competition starts. And well, they always announce, I guess it's tradition, the newcomers, the first year guys. Well, my first year was, I think it was like Emmett Smith, DeMarcus Ware, Michael Pena, who's a great actor. Anyways, let's just say it's those guys. So they go through the list and they go DeMarcus Ware, 9-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champion, sack leader, 6 years running. Emmett Smith, all-time rushing leader, best known cowboy. Michael Pena, Emmy award-winning actor. And then they go, and they're just going through these lists of these guys, and it's taking forever, and they're getting up and they're waving, and everybody claps for them on their accomplishments. Larry the Cable Guy sitting in front of me. And they go, Ben Higgins, season 20 of The Bachelor. And that's it. That's all they said. And then I sit down because it's awkward because I'm the one guy there that has done nothing, none of my work in my life had brought me to that point, right? Other than the thing I played high school golf, that kind of worked in my favor there. However, there was nothing that brought me to that point to be the Bachelor. And Larry the Cable Guy, in all of his greatness, because he's a great dude, goes, well, that was anticlimactic. And the whole place erupts. And I'm sitting next to my dad. Greg Maddux is behind me, our all-time favorite pitcher. And you just you laugh because it's true, but you kind of sink into your seat as a reminder of, I don't belong here. Like, I don't fit in here. I like being here. I would love to be back here. Mm-hmm. But I don't belong here. So it's kind of how I felt all week. I just got done with the Diamond Resorts golf tournament this last weekend, and it's kind of how I feel in all those circumstances. It's maybe how I feel in a thread through life, but that really heightens it. Like, that's a great tangible expression of the fact that I don't belong there, but I'm happy I'm there.
Do you feel though there are others who have been in your situation, who have been on TV a lot, who actually do feel like they belong, and they do get this large overinflated ego because they've had so much screen time over the years? I would imagine you have friends or people in that realm that you could sense or see in them that they are kind of feeling beyond maybe they're feeling themselves a bit as far as I'm kind of famous now and everything that comes along with it, some of the good and some of the bad. Do you sense that around with some of the people that you hang out with?
Well, definitely. I think that happens, right? Justin Bieber has a song called Lonely that's out, and it kind of speaks to this. It's very lonely to be in the public eye. But I think there's a good differentiator between it. One is, you've worked really hard. You're a professional athlete. You put a lot of work into that. You're proud of the fact that you made it to the pros. You're proud of your accomplishments. It's something that you should, in a sense, have some confidence within. Hey, I worked hard to get where I'm at. And then there's other of us, like I said, who, I've worked hard at other things in my life, but it hasn't necessarily had the accolades that I can express to the public. Say, yeah, I deserve to be here. It's probably a lot like anybody else's life. We work hard to put food on the table and to do what we think is best. And that's kind of where it spit us out. I've always said this, and I give advice to anybody that's the Bachelor. I get to talk to everybody that's the Bachelor before they begin since my season. And I always say this, I don't have a lot of advice for them because their journey is going to look different than mine. But I always say, hey, I've been through this. You're going to feel like the king of the mountaintop. The fame is going to feel really great. But I want to tell you now, the fame is never fulfilling. It's always going to be a constant chase after staying relevant. And anytime you're chasing after something, I believe that you're putting yourself in danger of making a decision or a mishap that is not you. So I say, never let your head get too big. I've been there, right? You're going to feel awesome, and I felt awesome too. But also never let your head get too small. Criticism is going to come. It's going to come in life. If you're an athlete, if you're in business, if you're a parent, if you're a child, criticism is going to happen in your life. It's going to occur at some point. So don't let it totally paralyze you. Don't let it just completely suck you down. Try to stay in the middle. Try to stay there where you recognize the fame and you appreciate the fame and all the things that it does for you, right? I wouldn't be talking to you without that show. But also never let it be the pursuit of your life or the pursuit of anything in your life, because it's never going to fulfill the need that you have.
Wow, that seems like a really good advice for not just for the Bachelor, but for anybody who experiences any level of fame. Where does this come from? Is this from your family? Have you gotten help? How have you come to learn something that I think is really valuable, useful advice for all people?
Well, a few things I could point out, right? Family and friends are huge. Just their consistency in my life and their constant support and their honesty. One thing I like to do with my friendships is I like to give them, and my family, is give them the space to be honest. I say, please be honest with me. It might not feel great, but I need your opinion. The second thing is my faith. My faith is really important to me. And my buddy said this right after the show. I got off the show and I was talking to him and I was like, man, I need to do this next thing because I need to stay in the headlines. But I was like, man, it's hurting me. Like it doesn't feel good. I don't feel anything from it. I just know I need to do it because it means more money, and more money means more attention, and more attention means that I'll be able to feel better. And he told me this. He goes, two things. He said, what if instead of trying to make this about yourself, what if you made this about everything but yourself? What if you started to use this platform that you've been giving to connect with others, to tell the stories of others? Maybe that is as famous as you need to become, is just having a platform to be the intermediary between all of these beautiful stories that happen in the lives of others and the public. And it takes the pressure off of you. Almost a business decision, strategic in a lot of ways, but it also was taking me out of the forefront. The second thing he told me was that he's a fairly famous person himself. He's a great basketball coach. He told me this. He said, what if there's nobody ever meant to be famous? What if no human was ever meant to be famous, to carry the weight of fame? And he says this also with the idea, he kind of asked me a question. He goes, Ben, name the most famous person 100 years ago. Not that long ago, right? I have a grandfather who's 96. We're a couple generations separated from 100 years ago. Name the most famous person 100 years ago. And yes, we could name some names maybe of people that we thought lived back then. But when it comes to actors, when it comes to athletes, celebrities, whatever, it's really hard to do. And so do I want my legacy? Do I want my whole pursuit of life to be about something to become famous, and then to know in 100 years that means nothing? Do I want my life to mean nothing in the pursuit of fame? And so I would contribute it to not only life experience, friends, family, but also my faith, and just knowing that and believing, I guess, that there is a God greater than me and greater than all of us that gives us purpose and value. And if that's the case, then I'm a part of the plan. I'm not the main forefront.
It's great perspective. I think it's useful for people in general. And Ben, I want to shift a little bit to leadership, because I think you have a background, you played sports. You also have worked in the business world. I know, invest and own restaurants, a coffee line. So there's a lot of things that you do outside of that world of just the stuff that's on TV. And so I'm curious, when you think about leadership and specifically leaders that you've been surrounded by, whether it's coaches or others who have helped you, what have you found to be some of the commonalities among leaders who sustain excellence? And that word sustain is really important to me. Sustain excellence over time, not the one-hit wonders, not the ones that hit it for a little bit, but the ones who have sustained over time, that have produced levels of excellence over and over and over. What have you found that those people seem to have in common?
Yeah, well, the first thing is an authenticity, and a consistency. You know what you're getting, and you know where it's coming from. Leaders have really bad days, really hard days, and on those days, they're a consistent and authentic leader. They're open and vulnerable, which I think vulnerability is a word that doesn't get thrown around a lot when it comes to leadership. I think there's a level of wise vulnerability that happens when you're a leader that allows the people that are alongside of you in this experience, in this life, to understand you a little bit better, but also know that you're always going to be honest in your approach to them. I think the next thing I would say is, and it's going to feel weird, leaders are incredibly humble. Good leaders that sustain are incredibly humble, meaning that yes, they might be called to leadership and they might be driving the ship, but they never hold that over somebody's head. That's never the approach they take to how they deal with people. At Generous, which is the company that I operate, we've always said this: I am the president of the company. Yes, ultimately, if a decision needs to be made, it is my decision to make. However, I lead it with open hands, and I lead it hoping and helping to push everything forward, all these people forward. And since I'm an encouragement to the ones that are actually on the ground doing things, because a lot of times my job means sitting at a computer. My job means sitting on a telephone call. I'm not actually getting to take action very often, but that brings me to the next point. The good leaders, sustainable leaders, take action. They do the work. They step into the places sometimes it's uncomfortable to sit. Just because your leadership doesn't mean it separates you and gives you some type of privilege above the other. And the final thing I would say is great sustainable leaders have a curiosity about them that I think far outweighs a normal person. And when I say normal person, I just mean that somebody that hasn't been put in a place of leadership. A curiosity, an intrigue, a desire to learn, a desire to understand, a desire to ask the right questions, a willingness to go, I don't have the right questions, I don't have the answers, but I want to try to figure it out. I think those are the leaders that I want to follow. Those are the leaders that I've seen sustain. Those are the leaders that are attractive to me and that I think are making the best difference in the world.
How has business been for you? This has been a weird year, last 12 months of obviously all the pandemic things. It crushed restaurants initially. Some of them have bounced back, some have not. How's business for you in the midst of everything going on?
Well, I joke tongue in cheek, being involved in restaurants and coffee shops in 2020 was not exactly the best investment to make in 2019. And rental homes. So there you go. But it's been fine, I would say. I don't think there's anything to necessarily brag about. The restaurants, we've gotten to a place of breaking even, which is really healthy for us, which is a really good thing in 2020 to do. So it's not exactly the best investment. It's not the most lucrative investment, but we're going to survive and we're going to continue to supply, hopefully, great food to the Denver area. The coffee shops, online sales have actually gone up, right? People are brewing coffee from home. Generous Coffee is doing really well. Our impact has actually been greater this year. So Generous Coffee is a coffee company. It's a for-profit company. But the owners of it, and I'm one of the owners in our operational agreement, have signed off that we will never make any profit. So when Generous is valued, if it ever goes to market to be sold, the owners will distribute all the profits from the sale to nonprofits and social causes that are fighting human-facing injustice on the ground. And so we will not, all of our profits still to this day are being donated. So any profits from a bag of coffee, from a t-shirt, from anything like that are donated. It's our passion project. So our online sales went up. Our impact became greater because there was more need in the world and more apparent need in the world. But we do have some coffee shops. We had to close down one of those, unfortunately, which is really sad. But we opened it up in January of 2020, before the pandemic hit, and it just never could get going. Like it was a burden on our books, and so we had to close it down, which is not fun to do, especially when it's a for-purpose coffee shop. But it was the right thing to do from a business perspective. So I'd say okay, like we're fine.
Mm-hmm.
We're making it.
Yeah. I'm curious about leaders in your life. One of the people that you write about in your book is your dad.
Yeah.
Can you share? I mean, I know if people get me talking about my dad, I'll go on for 2 hours. So
Yeah.
you're probably similar in that regard. But I'm curious, what are a few pieces of life advice from a leadership perspective that you've learned for your dad that you hope to one day pass along to your kids?
Well, I think the things I've learned from my dad, one, and you're right, like I'll summarize this, but it could go on forever, he has an appreciation for life. I think that comes from, his life experiences. He had cancer at 30. He's had heart disease, bypasses, health issues. So there's an appreciation for life, and as a result, appreciation for family and friends. I think the other part that I've always been intrigued by is there is a kindness in his heart. There is a desire to be kind. I think finally, the thing that I would summarize, if I could look at his life, is a loyalty. And I say loyalty, not like he isn't loyal to many. There isn't this like, I'll choose the people I'll be loyal to. No, there's a loyalty to how he sees people and how he sees this world, and especially how he sees his family. Never doubted. I've been very fortunate in my life to never doubt how my dad feels about me, what he dreams for me, what he wants for me and my family, which has been a gift that like I could never ever pay back. That's just something incredible, and I think that's the mark of a really good father.
Yeah. What about from a relationship perspective? You're now committed and engaged to be married. You had a public engagement that went away, and now not as public, but still in the public engagement. What have you learned to make you better from those people important in your life, like your parents, to your engagement with Jess, I believe, right? Jess is.
Yeah.
What have you learned from them that's helped you now as you've chosen a life partner?
Well, the big thing for me is, and it's a unique circumstance, but through the breakup, I think especially the consistency part really stuck. Like they were always there. They weren't pushy. They weren't trying to fix it. They knew I had to sit in it, but they were always there. That was a big deal for me. It allowed me to heal on a timetable that was healthy for me, allowed me to get back out into the world when I was ready. There wasn't a push there. They knew, they understood. They were curious enough to ask me the right questions to then understand that I needed time, space, some healing. The other part is seeing the way my parents love each other, helped during that time. Seeing their commitment and care for each other helped me still desire that one day. I looked at them and said, I want that. I desire that. And so it helped me try to get to a place where I could heal enough to get back out into the world. But also, I think one of the really interesting things that they did that I really appreciate, and I do write about it in the book as well, is they celebrated my singleness. They didn't treat it as a disease. They didn't treat it as something that needed to be cured or to move beyond. They celebrated it. They knew it was a season of life for me, and it could be a season of life forever for me. It could be my story. It could be the way this world and I interact, is that I don't find my romantic partner. Now, luckily I did, which is good for me. But at the same time, if I would have been single, they knew that I had to get to a place where I could be happy with him, that I could find joy within that, purpose within that singleness. And so it took the pressure off of me. It allowed me to become a better man, which happens through breakups. I think if you want to be aware enough, and if you want to do some introspection, I think you're going to learn a lot about yourself, and you're going to become a better person through it. And it allowed me to prep to now be engaged to somebody so incredible. I don't think I was ready for for somebody as incredible as her years ago, and now I am, and because of the process that it took.
So now we get to the point where I've written a book and almost finished with the second one. So I know the pain. And I think that's the accurate word. And yours is even more so because it's so deeply personal, more so than most. You share more than you probably, maybe. I wonder if you intended to initially, because it's all on the table. I mean, I was shocked to hear about painkillers, just how you felt, like how just messed up you were after breakups, and walking in on an earlier girlfriend cheating on you. I mean, like you just didn't leave anything out. And I admire your willingness to be like, well, I'm just going to put it all out there. So I'm curious about how you got to the point to have the guts to say, yep, it's going in. Yep, it's going in. I'm not going to hold back. And you didn't. And I think that's an admirable trait in a person.
Well, yeah, and I would love to say, oh, just because I'm that great, and that's why I didn't know. It took a lot of leading and listening and asking the question. So one thing that I realize is, as we talked about earlier, I was the Bachelor, and it gave me a great platform. And I'm lucky that the show's been good to me, and that this experience was overall really good for me. But I don't know when I'll get the opportunity to write a book again. So that's one thing. Is if I'm going to have one chance at this, and this is going to be something that could live on beyond me even, I want to do my best to write something that I felt mattered and that I believe mattered. Now, it also then took me diving in, is to say, okay, if I'm going to write something that matters and that I believe matters and that other people can maybe listen to and hear from and learn from, then I'm going to have to dive deep within my soul, my heart, my life, pull out things that I've forgotten, wounds that maybe haven't been healed. And I started writing all this down, and that's where Mark. You'll see Mark Tabb's name on the book as well. It's where Mark came in, because I hit a point where I was realizing I was writing and putting things into this book that were surface level. I was unintentionally, and maybe even intentionally, keeping it above what I knew would actually matter. So I had to bring somebody in to help me dive deeper, to ask me some questions, to help guide me along, to say, that's not enough. There's more there. Where did that hurt come from? Why do you feel that pain today? What is it that led you to addiction? Was there anything that led you to addiction? Did it just happen? Was it just a good experiment that ended up, spiraling into this years of dependency? I needed support there. I needed a counselor. And so I've gotten help with counseling. I had good friends and good family around, but also just having Mark there to help me dig deeper so that I could write stuff on these pages that personally I was probably uncomfortable writing if I was alone in my office writing it. That's what helped. I do that because the one thing I've realized in life is that everybody has a story, everybody's story matters, and everybody's story is a lot deeper than what we usually get by just talking to them for a couple minutes. And I recognize that because some of my biggest insecurities are also the things that connect me most with others, that make me most relatable with others, that make others see me and go, yeah, he's like me, right? And so I had to dig those things back out. So hopefully the reader could read this and go, wait, I feel the same way, or wait, I'm not alone in this. And I know there's people out there that struggle with addiction. It's very common. And so if I have, then why, and I'm writing a book that hopefully will be an asset to people's lives, I have to write about it. I can't hide it any longer. And I hid it for years. Very few people knew about it.
I feel like having the willingness to go first and to go deep quickly I think relationships tend to move at the speed of vulnerability, your willingness to go there, and certainly putting it in writing is one-sided in one form because it's one person reading and you're not hearing from them. But I'm curious, you've probably sent it to friends and others to read it early. What is some of the response that you've received from those who have had a chance to read it early?
It's well, most people have been really positive, so that's helpful.
Mhm.
I think they know I'm fragile right now, so they're being very nice.
You're fragile right
Um,
now?
oh man, super fragile.
Why do you say that?
Uh, I say that because I think for a couple reasons. One, this book is very personal to me. It's the
Mhm.
first thing I've ever done that I've thought of, written, um, marketed, promoted, and now put out there to the public. All that's it's very personal to me. So you write this, and one of my biggest insecurities of life that I still struggle with today is that I feel like when people really get to know me, they're gonna not like me, or there's something
So
about
that
me.
was like a part of your storyline. Like that's real.
Yeah,
Like that is a real thing in you. Cause I was like, come on, dude. Like I was looking at you, seeing your story, like seeing what you look like. I mean, all the things. And you seem like a really genuine, good guy that I was like, yeah, I'd hang out with that guy.
yeah,
And I know the demo for what your show is primarily female. I get it, but one of my college football teammates was on the show at one point a few years before you. So I was like, I watched him, and we were all cheering for him. One of our buddies, and it kind of got me into watching it though, and that's why I did watch it. But when I saw that storyline, I was like, well, I guess they have to create something because there's got to be a story. There can't just be a
yeah.
good looking dude who shows up on TV. They have to have a backstory. So you're telling me that story was legit and real and still
It's
seems to be?
it's very real. It's something I'm fighting. I go through seasons, right? But like right now, as this book is getting today's launch day, but as we're building up to it, it was seeping back in more than ever. What if people don't like it? What if nobody reads it, right? What if it flops? From my perspective, I wrote a book. I'm proud of that. But also, there's a business side to this that I don't want to let down either. And so, if some people entrusted me with this book and then it flops, that is a hurtful thing for them and for me to recognize and realize. And there was I was just talking to my buddy right before I talked to you, but I was saying, leading up to this, there's been a lot of uncertainty. I've had this book, I've promoted this book, I've talked about this book as much as I can. But I don't know how it's going to be received. I don't know if anybody will even receive it. And in my life, uncertainty typically, if I've sit in uncertainty for too long, unhealthy uncertainty, then my mind spirals to places that are heavy, that are the worst case scenarios. And so,
Like what? Like what? Where's your mind spiral to?
oh, nobody's going to read it, and if they do read it, they're not going to like it. Maybe a few will read it, but you have a huge following on Instagram, and this is going to be kind of the telling moment that none of those people actually care about you. None of those people actually care to consume anything that you put out there. That this will be kind of that reinforcement, that validation in my life that yes, you aren't that liked. Yes, you aren't that cared for. Yes, you are the outsider looking in, wondering what in the heck's going on and why you can put so much effort and why you have this huge platform, and everything kind of aligns that any normal person would sell a bunch of copies of their book and you won't because it's a fraud. You haven't done anything to deserve it. Those are the things that seep in. And then I have to speak truth in my life and get back to a place that's healthy again, because there's really nothing I can do about that. But I'm fragile right now, man. It's been um, you could break me pretty quickly right now because there's been a lot of uncertainty, and I'm hoping that leaves as the book's out there, and no matter what happens, I can find some joy in the few people maybe that read it, or the many that read it, and their stories and their responses to it, maybe how it's related with them or what it's done for them. I think that would be fun. But for weeks I haven't had that even. And so to go back, like what did my friends, what did the people that read it say? They've been encouraging. I think mostly the feedback, if I were to summarize it, would to say, well done for digging as deep as you did. Because the friends that really know me know that this stuff probably wasn't easy to write about, nor like talking about, the mistreatment of women that I had, the kind of pushing women aside, objectifying, like those things aren't fun to write about, but I know they happen. I know the damage it caused my soul and my life. And so stuff's not fun for me to talk about though, right? I've tried to build away from that and become a better man from that, but I still feel like it was helpful to write about. And so they say, well done. And maybe that's how I could summarize it, is just like that. Doing that process had to be hard.
I have to tell you, I'm a little surprised, and I admire it in a way that you are so willing to share. Like, I feel like your genuine feelings right now, when you could easily put on like a front. You're probably doing a ton of interviews, so you could easily put on a front of about the grind of the work and about the businesses, and instead you're like, I'm fragile. You could probably break me. I mean, I feel like in a way that would be the mark of a good friend, as weird as that may sound. I'm curious about like your friendships in life and being a good friend. Like, what does that mean to you? What's the importance of friendships, and how do you approach others in order to develop these great friendships that I would have to guess happens based on your willingness to be so open?
Yeah, so let's flip all of my insecurities, which I've learned to do, through a lot of help, on their head, and say, yes, I recognize that this is a part of my life. I recognize that these are things that are not healthy for me to always live within. However, empathy is a beautiful thing. And so because I felt this way, because I know personally, I could never prove to you that I felt this way. That's impossible to do. These are emotions, these are feelings. But because I felt this way, then I can hopefully, if I want to be authentic with my life, I'm going to have to be empathetic towards others, so towards friendships that are feeling this way. I have to be sensitive to the people that I know are fragile as well. And so I think some of my biggest weaknesses are also the things that make me who I am, make me my biggest strengths. I don't know if you're into the Enneagram, but I'm an Enneagram 4, which means that I do a lot of self-reflection. That's typically the mark of an Enneagram 4. And a lot of my self-reflection ends up being like, hey, when I'm at my worst, like, it does not feel good. I'm very susceptible to depression. I'm very susceptible to feeling like the outsider. So if I'm so susceptible to this, maybe it's untrue, but I need to be extra sensitive to not force other people into that space, because I don't want anybody else to feel that way. And that's kind of how I guess when I think about how I communicate with others or how I deal with my friendships, that is how I deal with them, is thinking through, like, if I was in their shoes right now, what is it that I would want? Also, what is it that I wouldn't want? And so I'm not going to cross that boundary and do that to them.
Interesting. One more question, man. Let's say there's a recent college graduate, and they're getting in the working world, okay, building a career, and they want to make a positive contribution in the world. What are some pieces of general life advice? Because this probably comes to you a lot. You get a lot of questions from a lot of different people, but general pieces of life advice you would share with someone at that stage in their life.
Well, I would say, first off, before you start taking the step into pursuing success or an accomplishment, to strip away all of your expectations, to strip away all the shame and the guilt and the labels that have been placed on you. We grew up in a time and it came out of a good place, but we were told we can do anything we want to do. We could be president, we could be lawyers, doctors, professional athletes. So when that doesn't happen, or when it maybe does happen and it doesn't fulfill our souls, there's a hole left, and we're left asking the question, what's more? Or if we don't ask that question, then we ask the questions some do, is how can I numb this pain that I feel? So I'd ask anybody that's a recent college graduate who's getting out on their life journey is to start asking themselves the question often, who am I? Who am I? If everything was stripped away, who am I? Who am I as a human? Who am I to others? And once you build on that, once you see that, once you recognize that, once you can start to answer that, and it's going to change in the course of your life. You're going to become a different person in 3-4 years because of life events that you were today. I know that, but you got to ask, that's why you got to ask it often. Then you can start stepping into the workplace or whatever it is that you do after college, and you're going to become a more valuable asset because you're going to be uniquely chosen and your skill sets are going to uniquely show, and you're going to be more in touch with yourself and hopefully in touch with others so that you can be a benefit to them. And you're not just another robot that was hired out of college or brought out of college to be on a football field or on a basketball court, that you can be uniquely yourself because you know yourself. You've asked yourself the question, who am I? And you've been able to answer it. And I think one of the things that, one of the best things about this pandemic has been is allowed a lot of people to work from home, have a lot more freedom. And it's allowing us to feel more human again, less like robots, less like parts of the system. We're allowed to breathe again, to laugh again, to be around family a little bit more, to be around friends a little bit more, to take a Wednesday afternoon off and go for a bike ride and to feel the breeze on our face and to not be sitting in a basement at a computer. And I get that that's going to still be people's lives, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that you still have the opportunity to ask yourself, who am I? What am I about? And who am I to others?
Love it, man. One more question. Book's titled Alone in Plain Sight,
Yeah.
Searching for Connection When You're Seen But Not Known. Why is that the title of the book?
Well, I can't think of one worse feeling than feeling alone, lonely, isolated, like really alone, lonely, isolated. And so a lot of us, and I get this from, the last couple of years and hearing people's responses to when I said I feel unlovable or unlikable. A lot of people wrote back to me and said, I feel the same way. What can I do about it? What I recognized that people were really saying was that people feel alone, misunderstood, isolated. And so a lot of us walk through this life, being at our workplaces, being at our family dinners, interacting with our friends, our family, our spouses. We're doing it and we're just moving through it. We're seen, we're there. But we're feeling unknown, misunderstood. We're feeling isolated. And the longer and longer that lasts, the farther and farther we go down that, the more and more I think we even start to misunderstand ourselves. And that's why the book is titled Alone in Plain Sight, when you're seen but not known.
Well done, man. And thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. And it's good to have you. And certainly reminisce on Tahoe as well. I hope you come back. They got to have you back. Maybe this thing blows up, they'll have you back. It would be great to see you back, man.
I would be lying to you if I said that if this, I had a thought, if this book is a massive success, that I might just get the call again.
I love it, dude. I love it. Well, it's good to talk to you, man. I know you got a lot going on. Congrats. Big day. But thanks so much for being here and investing your time. And I'd love to continue our dialogue as we both progress, man.
Be awesome. Thanks, buddy.
All right, man. Thanks, Ben. See you, man.
See you.
All right.